We're at a pivotal time in society right now where men, myself included, we have a choice. We can either adapt, grow, or we can dig our heels in the sand, be complacent, and watch our entire bloodline die. This isn't the first point in society. This isn't the first time in society, where we have been faced with these types of choices. Long time ago, the men that refused to learn to hunt didn't eat. The men that chose not to farm, they vanished because they weren't able to support their family. There's been multiple points in society where men have had to adapt to the conditions that are in front of them in order to continue pushing forward. But we're in this really crazy time right now where life is more convenient than ever. And so many men are just checking out and just handing over their autonomy to, the tech overlords, as I like to say, or governments or CEOs and big industries and all of those different things. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, by the way. What I believe is radical self-accountability. And I think that the most important skill that a man can develop in 2026 and moving forward is the ability to adapt. Cultivating the ability to adapt to the work environment, what's happening with technology, cultivating the ability to adapt to what relationships are demanding of men, which tends to be more in the realm of vulnerability and emotional intelligence. But there is a large group of men that are just holding on to old ideologies or what masculinity or being a man used to be like. And the harder that you hold on to this identity, the harder that you hold on to this way of being, the more likely you are for people to just pass over you. And I don't like to make this channel political, but we're already seeing it with the far left and the far right. There's very, very clear. There's a vast majority of women don't want to be with people that are far right. And the reason for that is because people on the far right side of the political spectrum, and it's not good or bad, but they just tend to be very, very, very stuck in their ways. And they're very stuck in older ideologies or older versions of what it means to be a man or what it means to have a society. And they feel like masculinity is being taken away from us by the leftists, by whatever. The snowflakes, I think, is what they call the people on the left side. So what I'm trying to get you to say is that rather than getting caught up in the old times or the good times or whatever your idea of how things used to be and how you want them to go back to that, I would start to look at your life from the perspective of how can I adapt as a man, learn new skills that continue to make me successful and valuable in the current society that we're living in. Just to give you an example, let's look at emotional intelligence and relationships. And I had this man say, one of my guys in one of my groups, he said to me, we were talking about holding space for a partner. Let me give you a bit more context. So we were talking about how do we hold space for a partner? So when our partner's and she's upset and she's triggered, she's bringing something to us, how do we interact? How do we hold space? Whatever. And the point that I was trying to make was when your partner is triggered, now that's not the time as a man to argue that you're right or try to make her wrong. You get caught in this power struggle, right? And I said, your job in those moments is to hold space so she feels safe. So she feels like she can bring you something and you're not going to argue, you're not going to get defensive, or you're not going to run away. And he said, well, what if I really am right? And I said, well, do you want to be right or do you want to have a girlfriend? And he kind of looked at me and he was like, got it. He was refusing to learn emotional intelligence because he was trying to just hold on to this idea of I'm right and you're wrong. And that's just a micro example of how that might show up in a relationship. But I believe the one thing that's going to keep men successful and keep their genetics and keep their bloodline alive versus the ones that die out are the ones that adapt. For the ones that go, okay, society has changed. It's not 2000 anymore. It's not 1995 anymore. It's not 1960 anymore. Society evolves. Therefore, men, women, everybody needs to evolve, but it tends to be the men that get really stuck in I don't want to do the work. I don't want to change. I want things to go back to when they were easy. But the problem is that world is gone. And the only reason that you don't want things to change is because then that would mean that you'd have to do the work. And to do the work, life might get shitty for a while. Life might get a little bit harder. So I genuinely believe that if you're a man out there, Start cultivating the mindset of adaptation, the ability to adapt, to let go of old belief systems, let go of what you believe to be true or what you were taught about the world. Start questioning it, start getting out there in the world, taking a look around, asking yourself, what is it that people are looking for in relationship? What is it that people are looking for in the workplace? What is it that my friends are asking for from me? And start to learn how to provide those things. And you will find yourself living a much better life, because rather than being in this resistance, you're going to be in a state of flow. You're going to be in a state of learning and adapting, and you're going to be able to just have a lot more control over your life rather than being in this constant fight, this constant war of resistance. So if you're a man, adapt. Adapt, adapt, adapt. That's the number one skill that you can cultivate in order to keep your bloodline alive.